In the glamorous world of celebrities, their homes stand as symbols of their success and lifestyle. Yet, even in this glittering realm, not everything is as seamless as it appears. In this video, we delve into a surprisingly common phenomenon in the high-stakes world of celebrity real estate, the challenge of selling lavish homes. At the forefront of our story is Celine Dion, an iconic singer whose voice has touched millions, but she faces an uphill battle in finding a buyer for her home. That and much more, as Facts First presents, Celine Dion is struggling to sell her massive home. Michael Jordan's Illinois mansion. Michael Jordan, an icon in basketball and a household name globally, has faced an unexpected opponent off the court, the real estate market. His Illinois mansion, a sprawling 56,000 square foot estate, stands as a monument to his success. Purchased in 1991 for $2 million, this luxurious property boasts 9 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms, and an array of amenities befitting a sports legend, including a full-size indoor basketball court, a gymnasium, and a cigar room. Despite these impressive features and Jordan's fame, the mansion has been on the market for over 11 years, with its price plummeting from an initial $29 million to $14.9 million. The property's highly personalized nature, like the entrance gates adorned with Jordan's jersey number 23, might be deterring potential buyers who prefer a more neutral space. 50 Cent's Connecticut mansion. The story of 50 Cent's Connecticut mansion is a tale of extravagance and the challenges of finding a buyer for such a unique property. Originally listed for $18.5 million in 2015, this 50,000 square foot mansion's price has been slashed to $5.995 million. The home is a testament to luxury, featuring 21 bedrooms, 25 bathrooms, an indoor pool and hot tub, a nightclub, an indoor court, multiple game rooms, a green screen room, and a recording studio. Despite these lavish amenities, the mansion's over-the-top nature and the niche appeal of its features have made it a difficult sell. Matt Lauer's Hamptons estate. Matt Lauer, a familiar face in American television, has encountered significant challenges selling his Hamptons estate. Initially listed for $17.995 million in July of 2016, the price of this 8,000 square foot home has been reduced to $14.9 million. Nestled on a 25-acre private lot, the property exudes traditional elegance and is designed for luxury living and entertainment. But Lauer's personal controversies have overshadowed the property's allure. John Travolta's Maine Island estate. Travolta, a multi-talented actor and producer with a career spanning more than 5 decades, has faced difficulties selling his Maine Island estate. Purchased in 1991, this 11,000 square foot property was built in 1903 and features 20 bedrooms. Despite its historical significance and Travolta's fame, the property has struggled to find a buyer since being listed in February 2021. The estate's maximalist country-style interior, adorned with a mix of colors, patterns, and ornate furnishings, may not align with the tastes of the average homebuyer. Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi's Los Angeles condo. DeGeneres and de Rossi, known for their knack for flipping and reselling mansions, have surprisingly hit a roadblock with their LA condo. Listed at $8 million, this property has been awaiting a buyer since 2014. It embodies modern luxury and style and represents the unpredictability and often capricious nature of the real estate market. Even with their established reputation and success in real estate, Ellen and Portia's venture with this condo demonstrates that market trends and buyer preferences can be fickle and unpredictable. The property, with its high-end design and prime location, seems to tick all the boxes, but it remains unsold. The S.K. Pierce mansion. The S.K. Pierce Mansion, a Victorian-era marvel built in the 1870s, stands as a testament to architectural grandeur and historical significance. Once the residence of Sylvester Pierce, a wealthy industrialist, the mansion has been embroiled in tales of the supernatural, casting a shadow over its marketability. Despite its stunning architectural features and rich history, the mansion's reputation as a haunted house has significantly impacted its appeal. Listed at a surprisingly low $329,000, this property's struggle in the market highlights the powerful influence of folklore and public perception in real estate. Potential buyers, deterred by the stories of hauntings, overlook the mansion's potential as a unique historical residence or a lucrative investment as a tourist attraction. Celine Dion's Jupiter Island compound. Celine Dion, the Canadian singer whose voice has captivated audiences worldwide, is as renowned for her real estate ventures as she is for her chart-topping hits like The Power of Love and the iconic My Heart Will Go On from Titanic. Dion, who made Forbes' American Self-Made Women's list in 2021 with a net worth of $800 million, has invested in several lavish homes, including a sprawling vacation retreat on Jupiter Island, Florida. She purchased the estate in early 2008 for over $7 million. She embarked on a grand project to create a Bahamian-inspired mansion, which was completed in 2010. This luxurious holiday home is not just a house, but a compound, featuring a vast main home and 5 separate pavilions. The property boasts 13 bedrooms and 14 bathrooms, along with 415 feet of beach frontage, making it a true beachfront paradise. The estate is a testament to Dion's taste for opulence. It houses 2 ocean view verandas, a tennis pavilion with a golf range simulator, a pool house, an outdoor kitchen, and a beachside cabana with a massage room. The grounds include 3 geothermal heated swimming pools, a commercial-grade water slide, and a 4-car garage. Every aspect of the property reflects Dion's status as a global superstar. Despite its grandeur, her compound faced significant challenges in the real estate market. Initially listed in 2013 for $72.5 million, the property underwent several price reductions over the years. It dropped to $45.5 million, then to $38.5 million in January 2017. It finally sold in April of 2017 for $28 million after 4 years on the market. The struggle to sell this magnificent property can be attributed to several factors. Its scale and price likely deterred many potential buyers. Additionally, the local annual taxes, which exceed $350,000, may have played a role in dissuading interested parties. The estate's bespoke nature, tailored to Dion's specific tastes and lifestyle, may have also limited its appeal to a broader market. Celine's journey in selling her Jupiter Island compound is a fascinating glimpse into the challenges faced by celebrities in the real estate market. Her story illustrates that even the most luxurious and well-appointed properties can struggle to find buyers, especially when they are as customized and unique as this Bahamian-inspired mansion. Dion's experience in the real estate market is a reminder that celebrity status and luxurious amenities do not always guarantee a quick sale in the complex world of high-end real estate. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest challenge in selling such high-profile homes? Let us know in the comments section below.